Hey folks, it's Abby and I have got myself a fairly chunky TBR for September. I am a little nervous about this because same as in August had the Olympics and a little bit of August, but mostly in September we have the Paralympics. So I won't be audiobooking anywhere near as much as I usually do. So that's going to make getting through all of these books a little bit harder. And despite that, I have 4 extra books that I don't usually have. Wonderful. But let's just dive straight into the books I'm going to be reading. I have 2 arcs up first. First of all is Januaries by Oliver Blake. This is a collection of short stories of love, magic and betrayal, and they are set out between the 4 different seasons: spring, summer, autumn and winter. I appreciate that this actually says autumn instead of fall. I love the Britishisms, often they get missed. And this, I have tabbed up each individual story, so quite a selection of sizes of stories. I have only ever read what the hell is it called? One for My Enemy. I've only ever read One for My Enemy by Oliver Blake, which was also sent to me by the wonderful folks over at Tor. Thank you very much, folks. And so I am looking forward to reading some more of her writing. I own the Atlas 6 somewhere and I still haven't read it, I just haven't got around to it. But yes, so a collection of short stories should be quite fun and fast to get through, and I'm looking forward to exploring some more of her writing. And then the other arc that was gifted to me, also by Tor, and both of these books are releasing in October, which is why I'm reading them in September. And this is A Pirate's Life for Tea by Rebecca Thorne. This one is a little different in that you can technically already read this. It has already been self-published by the author, but its trad publish is in October of 2024. And the first book is Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, and we follow 2 very different women. One is an assassin slash bodyguard for the queen of a very bad country, and the other is the very young highest mage, what the fuck, in her country, neighbouring countries, and they end up falling in love and want to open a tea shop. Obviously I can't say what this one is about because saying anything about this one will spoil the first one, but there's dragons, there's cosy friendship and relationships. I really enjoyed the first one and I'm so excited to be able to get to book 2. Then I've got 2 classics that are surplus to normal on my TBR. One of them is not this, but this is the only representation I have, and that is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I don't own a physical edition and neither does my partner, so that's on the to buy list in 2025 once my book buying ban is over. So I'm going to have to listen to it via audio again. I have an audio copy from the last time I read it 2 years ago, or I'm going to try and get it out of the library. But yes, we are going to be buddy reading The Hobbit. The Middle-earth-a-thon is going on as I'm currently filming this and will be over on this day. It's the last day as this video goes up of the Middle-earth-a-thon. But we are doing read-alongs, so in September we're going to read The Hobbit, in October we'll read Fellowship of the Ring, November we'll read The Two Towers, and December we'll read Return of the King. I've only ever read The Hobbit and The Fellowship of the Ring, so I am very excited to reread those and then also actually finally finish the series out. I've tabbed them up already, like preparing for October, November, December. It's like 100 pages a week, which I feel like is fairly manageable if you actually want to dedicate the time to it and if you're interested. So if you would like to join us, the Discord will be linked down below and the sections will be unlocked each week so that you can come in and discuss, spoiler-free, the sections up to the chapters that we read to. I'm so excited to finally get into this, but yes, it's not The Lord of the Rings I'm reading in September, it is just The Hobbit, and I'm very excited. And then a buddy read with one specific person rather than a group buddy read. Me and Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe are going to be buddy reading A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I am very excited for this for a few reasons. One is that I've read books like inspired by A Tale of Two Cities and I've never actually read the original book. 2, we did try and read it in August and it was not the time. Both of us had like a lot of work trips and stuff going on. It was just not the right moment. And 3, once we have read A Tale of Two Cities, I will have finished this bind-up, which I am very excited about, being able to actually put this book onto my read shelves. I've read most of the insides, but I've not read A Tale of Two Cities. So yes, I don't really know much about it, and obviously this doesn't have a synopsis for each of the individual books, but it's something to do with the French Revolution. That's all I know. And now we're down to my normal 5-book TBR. I'm going to go with the prompted ones first, and my 3 randomizers will be at the end. So the first up is Celine from Stuff Celine Does or Stuff Celine Reads, depending on your platform, and her prompt for her Around the World challenge for this month is Native or Indigenous, and I am going to go with Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimura. I am so excited for this. Such a great excuse to finally pick it up. This is fairly small writing, so I have been a little nervous to pick up this non-fiction, but Indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge and the teaching of plants sounds fantastic. I've split this up into 2 chapter sections. I have the audiobook. I am ready to dive into this. Olivia, the aforementioned Olivia, has read this one, and while she did find positives in it, it wasn't for her, but she thinks I'm going to really enjoy it, which is hyping my excitement even further. So yeah, I'm just so excited to read this book. And then the other prompt is the next Discworld book in the series, which is Interesting Times, of course, by Terry Pratchett. This is book 17, I believe, so I am making my way through these ones. This one seems to be a Rincewind novel. I've read some of the Wizard ones, but not the Rincewind ones, since, oh god, I can't even remember. It's been a while, and I remember them not being my favourite. So I'm very curious. I love Discworld, just like to put that out there. I don't think I've given a single Discworld book less than 3 stars. So this is going to be like a minimum of 3, but like, is it gonna defy expectation and be a 4 or 5? I don't know. I love these books so much. Pratchett is such an intelligent and well thought out writer. He was a brilliant author, and I am very lucky that I get to read his works and enjoy them. Okay, then we have the generators. So, the generators. First up, for the one that has the most options available to it, is the TBR Wheel. As this spins, this is all of the books that are on my TBR shelves from before the start of the year, not including any series, sequels that I need to read. And it picked for me A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab, which is an interesting one to pick. So first of all, I have all 3 books in the trilogy, so that then immediately puts A Conjuring of Light onto my series I need to finish 1 book left stack. Interesting. And secondly, I've had this on my TBR forever. I am very hit and miss with V.E. Schwab's writing. I love V.E. Schwab. I met her at a signing and she was lovely. Like, every interaction I've seen with her online, all of the things that she writes as herself, you know, like where she's writing non-fiction stuff just from her. She seems like such a lovely woman. And I can't seem to give her books any higher than a 3. And it infuriates me. I have, of course, read A Dark Shade of Magic. I read it 4 or 5 years ago and then reread it because I couldn't remember it. I can remember it now, but I'm still not entirely sure of my rating. It's very much a setup book, very much so, and I think that my rating for it is something I've said before. My rating for it will hinge on how I feel about this book and potentially the 3rd one. So yeah, this is a very interesting one for me. I've been wanting to read more from Schwab and to get through this series for a while. I know that Becca from the Comic Book Sanctum is going to be screaming at her laptop that I'm finally picking this up. I am. I hope I love it, but it's going to be an interesting one. Then we have the dice roll, and this is for where I have 1 book left in the series and then I finish it out that I own physically. So I did this before I put A Conjuring of Light onto the shelves, so that wasn't a part of this. I could not read both of them in the same month. I didn't put that on myself. Also, A Conjuring of Light is huge. I'm just looking at it there. Like, she a thick lady. So I'm glad that I didn't put that on myself. But so, I did the dice roll, and number 5 came up, which is not actually this, it's The Lantern Bearer by Rosemary Sutcliffe, which is the 3rd book in the Eagle of the Ninth Chronicles. Technically this series has more books in it, but this trilogy within the series can be its own self-contained thing, and whilst I am enjoying, well, I say am, I read the 1st book when I was like 10, and then I read the 2nd book when I was like 23, 24 maybe. And I found the 2nd book really interesting, and I did remember just about the events of the 1st book. So I am enjoying it, but I don't think I want to pick up any more books from the series. I'm just going to finish this out and that will be it. So this, for me, is the final book in the series. And yes, it's called The Lantern Bearers. I know next to nothing about that one, but this book is set in Roman Britain. Does it say what year? No, because that would be helpful. It's in Roman Britain when the Britons are starting to really not want the Romans there and are starting to think about doing something about it, and we are following different people so far. In the first 2 it's been 2 different sets of people, either from Roman legions, and though their stories are generations apart, they are bound together by the emerald ring that passes between them. So yeah, I'm really excited to have this. Like I said, this has been on my TBR since I was like 10. This is, other than the Bible, which as an atheist I don't really plan to read. I may do it just to be a completionist at some point, but it's not something that I want to sit down for with any faith. So other than a copy of the Bible that I own, I think this is my oldest book on my TBR. So when the dice rolled for this one, I was so excited because I enjoy the books and I finally get to get them off of my TBR. Also, an interesting fact, even though these were written years ago, they were written a long, long time ago, Rosemary Sutcliffe, the author, she passed away in 1992 and she published her first book in the 1950s, so that's about the time frame, and she actually was a wheelchair user at the time, so I love the fact that someone, obviously she was upper class, of course, how else would she have gotten published being disabled, but I love that we do get some representation from such a long time ago. And then the TBR Jar. So this one, yes I know I have a ridiculous number, I say this every time, this one is all of the new books that I brought in 2024. So I pick out The Lightborn by Rebecca Zahavi. I was not expecting this. So The Lightborn, you may have noticed, was actually on the TBR Die selection because this is the third and final book in the trilogy, the Collarbound trilogy. So I was a bit like, oh okay, when this one came up I was like, do I have to repick? But no, it picked this. That counts. It's not my fault it's on both. It is my fault. But also what was I meant to do? It counts for both. Anyway, regardless. This is written by a British, French and Iranian author. Those are her nationalities. In The Collarbound, which is the first book, we follow a young mage and she is not what they want mages to be. Magic appears in some people, can be used in some people, and she happens to not be white, and so they're not very pleased about the fact that she has magic. On top of her dealing with this and being in an entirely new city and under entirely new rules, there's also two other groups of people. One is a different race, and I don't mean the way that we use it with skin colour in reality, I mean a different species. They are enslaved and treated as scum, essentially, by the higher-ups, the mages in this city and in this world. And you also have people who are collar-bound, who are magically, with a physical collar, bound to someone's will. And these three things combine in an anti-colonisation, anti-slavery book. I am so bad at this! But yes, this is the third and final book in the series. The second one, from my opinion, was actually much better than the first, which is very unusual for me. I don't usually love the second book a lot more than the first one. But I am incredibly excited to see how more of the magic develops in this one, how the story is going to end, and what happens to our characters. I need to know what happens to Tatters. I feel like this one isn't really talked about much online. The first one was a Goldsborough science fiction and fantasy book a while back, when I used to actually like them. And so yeah, that was really a win for me, so I'm very excited to get to this one. And that is it. Those are the books that I have to restack, preferably in size order, just so I don't break things. Like I said, those are the books that I'm going to be reading this month. It is more than realistically I should have set myself to read, with the Paralympics being on, but it is what it is, and regardless, I am very excited to get to all of these books. And obviously Lord of the Rings is a bit deceptive here, so that's my one my one grace. Let me know please down in the comments below if you've read any of these and which ones I should pick up first, because I'm gonna have to read, like I said, most of them physically rather than audibly, because I will be listening to the Paralympics when I'm at work rather than listening to an audiobook. So I need to know which ones to spend my time sitting and reading in the evenings when the Paralympics is finished. If you'd like to see how I managed with my books in August and how I do manage with these books by the end of September, then please do hit the subscribe button down below, hit the dislike button if you hated the video, and I will see you folks in the next one. Bye!